there's a lightness, both to the touch and the sound that reverberates back to Mark Garner's ear. So gentle, so tender. Hard to imagine anything this sweet could come from something so harsh.
There's an incredible irony in how much obnoxious noise goes into making such a serene and ethereal instrument.
That instrument, the Syrah's handpan, similar to a Caribbean steel drum. Each instrument requires some tens of thousands of hammer strikes. The vast majority of the work taking place in a warehouse in Black Mountain, and performed by just a handful of people with a fitting slogan: crafted with love and passion for quality. The idea to build his own came from Mark Garner in 2012.
I kept looking at it for about a week or two, and I finally thought, how hard can it be to make one of these things? And 7 years into it, I can say it's quite difficult. And it took quite a few years to really figure out the fine details of exactly how they do work.
I think we're getting pretty skilled at it.
His dad, Papa Steve, joined shortly after.
It's complicated.
His engineering background put to quick use.
I've learned to shape it properly ahead of time so that when I'm pressing the note in, the wrinkles go where I want them to.
There's Chet Plant, making the area between the notes just the right shape.
This thing's spinning around, so you kind of get dizzy after a little bit, and it gives you something to look at.
We sped up the video to give you an idea of the changes he's making. And you can't forget Chris Genereux. He's got the fun job.
I gotta hold an angle grinder and make sparks fly.
And boy, do they. But he doesn't stop there. Showing a softer side, though still noisy, by polishing away any imperfections.
Not rushing through it, taking time, and making sure that it's going to be the prettiest instrument I can do that day.
And once it leaves the warehouse,
some fitted earplugs
to Garner's home for tuning.
Right.
Literally beating the notes into place before shipping the handpans off. Garner says it takes about 3 to 4 months just to make one, so the demand is always greater than what they can produce, making anywhere between 100 and 150 a year.
We feel like we make paintbrushes, and each customer is the painter. So it's a collaborative force between the two of us to see what's created.
All of this work for customers around the globe. One of the more recent ones headed to Norway. Customers whom Garner says are quite appreciative.
I often think back about what Papa Steve said when he first came on early. As a career land surveyor, he said, you know, no one ever wrote me this heart-touching letter for staking out their property lines. It's amazing to have customers that have that much gratitude.
And the company pays it forward, sponsoring organizations and events that focus on musical education, sustainability, and ecological preservation. Like the Asheville Percussion Festival, which just celebrated its 7th year.
We don't want to just make musical instruments. We want to create inspiration on this planet.
Striking just the right chord. To find balance in doing something you love and giving back to those who love it too.
I'd say it's about as dirty as you can get. I could be wrong. Your toenail clippers. My name is John Hall. I'm a dairy cattle hoof trimmer. So cows are kept on concrete for sanitary purposes when they're being milked and fed. The harder surface stimulates hoof growth as well as good feed, which is required to give a lot of milk. But when your fingernails get long, you have trouble handling things. If their feet get long, they're walking on their toes. So if they get long, they're stressing the back of their, which is called the pastern, their ankles. We just need to trim them back, just like you trim your fingernails. Well, that's just a 4.5-inch grinder, but the disc is a hoof shaving disc. It was specially designed with those blades can be rotated, and they create no heat, and they just shave like you could have seen the chips, shave thin layers off and don't create any heat so they don't hurt the cow. Paperwork is the most important part of any business. It's all remote control, and it has enabled me to keep trimming even after I should have quit. I haven't been working near as much the last year and a half. A lot of the smaller dairies are just hanging it up because the producing milk is so marginal, or you're producing it and it costs more than you're actually getting paid for it. You can go between the toes. I'm 70 years old, so I don't mind sitting at home a couple days a week. So a lot of hoof trimmers have been sitting home. Younger ones are not real happy about it. The 100, 200 cow herds are really struggling. There's going to be less hoof trimming, but there will be some because there are the big dairies, 1,000, 2,000 cow dairies. You go to different dairies, you meet different people, the salted earth people, dairy farmers, good honest people that work all the time just trying to make a living.
I just love the wildlife, like being outdoors.
Choky. Oh, it's fun.
Filling up the tank with water so we can haul some fish.
The crowding screen. They're a little too spread out. Yeah, I can pack them in and easier to net out. It's a workout. They're roughly about 19 to 20 inches. 34. We do 3 different species: rainbow trout, brook trout, and brown trout. Most of the places we stock, there is not natural reproduction, so we are essentially 32 providing angling opportunity for anglers here in North Carolina that would otherwise not exist. Yeah, pounds. 55. People enjoy going out on these beautiful streams we have and catching trout. These fish are meant to be caught by anglers. 31. 85% of the trout we stock return to creel. 29, meaning they're caught and harvested by our anglers. 41, we do have our own brood stock, meaning we do have 41 fish that produce viable eggs that we use to produce these fish.
And here's where we raise our fry and fingerlings. Fish are raised to about 2 to 3 inches inside the building here, and then they are moved outside to the outside raceways. We have an egg room that we essentially incubate eggs in. Those eggs then hatch. We then bring them out into these troughs. They then go on to an artificial diet of feed. As they grow, we essentially split them into other troughs. Then when they get to a certain density, we then move them outside.
That's it for the rainbows.
But you certainly wouldn't be catching the size and the number of trout that you are because of the enhanced stockings. The economic impact of trout fishing in the western 23 counties is $383 million annually and supplies over 1,000 jobs. We get tons of people from out of town, from everywhere from California, Europe, Canada. We've had a big group in this week from Canada.
But there's definitely an increase in the amount of people, at least that we see in western North Carolina, they're out there fishing for trout.
If you can pitch it up and over, I don't have to go to the gym. 680 pounds of fish. Geese think we're bringing them bread. I fished it a couple times when there's been 10 or 15 people fishing when I was fishing. So we're also going to be stocking the Bent Creek too.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, on the upper end and the lower end.
You guys are stocking that upper end up there?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We'll stock this again next month too. Some big ones. I've been doing it for 18 years. I get to put the fish out and then go back and catch them.
Everybody loves it.
340 or something like that.
It's good to have people come to this area and enjoy it just like we do, you know? Some of the waters that we do stock probably would not have trout in them if we didn't stock.